Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, longtime astrologer, psychic healer, and yogi. Today's episode is the much anticipated astrology update for November 2020. So stay tuned. Hey listeners, I have some exciting news to announce. I'm holding a contest for my listeners where you can win a free 30-minute astrological reading from me, Jill Jardine, professional astrologer of many years. To enter the contest, all you have to do is go to my website, which is jilljardineastrology.com. That's my name, Jill, Jilljardiene, astrology, astrology.com, jilljardineastrology.com. Go to my free resources page on the website, download and fill out the soul purpose form. Then the second step is to subscribe, download Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine podcast, give a 5-star review if you will. And the third step is to go to my Facebook page, Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, and post your favorite Cosmic Scene episode. These 3 steps will qualify you to be entered into the contest. Again, they are to go to my website, jilljardineastrology.com, and fill out the soul purpose form. You can listen to some of my free content, mantras, and things on that free resource page as well. Second step, subscribe and download if you haven't already to this podcast, Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, and then go to my Facebook page, Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, and post your favorite Cosmic Scene episode. Then I'll know that you are entered, and I will notify you through your email. So please leave your email with me through my website. You'll be able to do that when you download the soul purpose form. And I will announce the winner at the end of November in time for the lunar eclipse. Welcome to the episode on the astrology of November 2020. You're going to want to stay tuned till the end of the episode when I give you a healing with the rattle to clear out any negativity or anxiety you may be feeling because of the upcoming events, and the crystal bowl to activate your heart to raise your vibration. So listen to the whole podcast and share it, please. So here we are, November 2020. And it's time for the Astro update. This has been a much anticipated month of activity from astrologers and psychics alike since a year ago. We were predicting that the American election on November 3rd would not be resolved for a while. Why? Because Mercury is going direct on November 3rd, and Mercury is the messenger and the planetary energy that rules communication. So we were seeing that there may be confusion, delay, and other disturbing communication breakdowns around Election Day, November 3rd. But let me go through all the important dates in November and give you the update of what we have to look forward to. And this is for everybody everywhere, as well as what will be happening in the United States. Get ready for Halloween spooky surprises and shocks to flow into November. If you think things have been wild so far in 2020, wait till the wave of political pandemonium and COVID chaos crests during November 2020. The Halloween full moon of October 31st kicks off cray-cray and an eerie November. Here are the keynote dates for November. I'll come back and explain each one more in detail. So we start off the month with the fallout from the Halloween full moon of October 31st, with the sun in Scorpio, moon in Taurus. November 3rd, Mercury, the great messenger planet, goes direct on Election Day in the U.S. November 12th, Jupiter and Pluto conjunction at 22 degrees Capricorn. November 13th, Mars goes direct. November 15th is a Scorpio New Moon. November 21st, the Sun enters the sign Sagittarius. November 27th, Venus in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus. November 28th, Venus transits direct in Pisces after being retrograde for 4 months. And we end the month of November on the 30th with a full moon lunar eclipse with the Sun in Sagittarius and the Moon in Gemini. November starts with a spooky stellium of planets in Capricorn, including Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, triggering the planetary mix that brought on the intensity of the pandemonium in early April, and then the social upheaval in late June. We need a strong witch's brew to be the antidote for upcoming events this month. Despite the pending collective chaos, personal experience may be a little weird and otherworldly in early November. The veil between dimensions is thin now, and the subtle realms of spirit can be revealed. The non-physical and spiritual dimensions are very near and dear now. This is why many are feeling strange, disoriented, and experiencing bizarre situations. Turbulent 2020 kicks into high gear in November after the Halloween full moon, which ushers in what will be a challenging month and may continue throughout the whole month into December 2020. The Halloween full moon on October 31st is a blue moon, and we know the saying, once in a blue moon, meaning odd things happen then. Also, the planet of change, shocks, and the unexpected conjuncts the Halloween full moon in Taurus and opposes the Sun in Scorpio. Life gets very strange in November. We will certainly see things we have never witnessed before with American politics and the outcome of the presidential election. As I said in October's update, and it is worth repeating, no one makes it to higher consciousness by demonizing and blaming the other, or through political polarization. It's a fast track to creating tough karmic repercussions. So in other words, no matter what you feel or favor in the upcoming elections, you don't have to bash others over the head with it. We are all living together. Kindness goes a long way at this time. And having empathy and consideration for others is key during the month of November. That being said, we will see unprecedented political fallout from the November 3rd presidential election that will continue throughout the month. Lately, as I've been tuning into this, clients and people are asking me, Jill, what's your astrological prediction? Well, I'm not going to give my prediction as far as who's going to win the election. What I will say, there will be a lot of confusion and chaos around the final result. There certainly will be delays in the decisions being made, which is already obvious as some states have delayed dates for all mail-in ballots and ballots to be counted. Here in Massachusetts, we have until November 6th to render all the votes in, and many other states have such dates. So right there, we won't know who has enough votes in the first week of November, and then we have to see that results will be pushed off as well, and that I feel like the media may even not want to announce a winner, and so we may have sort of a news blackout of as far as what's really happening. So try not to let all your life force get caught up in these events, and we certainly have to wait for Mercury to be direct for a few days for things to calm down or level out. Mercury does go direct on November 3rd, right in time for this very embattled election result. And as I had mentioned on the onset of 2020, astrologers were predicting a messy American presidential election outcome when we did realize that Mercury would be in a retrograde cycle in October leading up to the final days before the November 3rd election, the day that Mercury goes direct. And as I had said, there will be no decisive outcome for weeks after the election, and the final decision will be very much contested. So my suggestion is let's visualize and pray for peaceful and smooth transitions and the restoration of world dharma. Tensions are heightened during the days following Election Day in the U.S., and the planets stir up the pot as Pluto and Jupiter come into an exact conjunction on November 12th. This reactivates the critical degree 22 degrees of Capricorn that was triggered on April 4th and June 29th, 2020. Let's look back to the time period. What was happening on April 4th, 2020? April 4th, we were smack in the middle of coronavirus surges and restrictions. Lockdowns were still in full enforcement, and the COVID fallout was in full swing, wreaking havoc with so many sick and dying, hospitals at maximum capacity, and no end of the upsurge in sight. That was the first time Jupiter and Pluto conjuncted or were together at that 22 degrees of Capricorn. And then they went forward and came back. At the end of June 2020, we also saw the exact conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn. What was happening at that time? In the U.S., we saw the upheavals of the George Floyd protests, resurging virus, unemployment, political and social unrest. So on November 12th, Pluto and Jupiter come back together at that degree. In astrology, Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, and transformation. And Jupiter expands whatever planet it comes into conjunction with. So we will see an amplification of these Plutonian themes of death, rebirth, and transformation. So when Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn conjunct, it may induce more breakdowns in societal structures, but Pluto also rules transformation. Those systems and structures which no longer serve, are outdated or outworn, will break down so the proverbial phoenix can rise from the ashes and make breakthroughs. The breakthroughs probably won't come during November, but the lunar eclipse of November 30th brings this cycle that we've been in all year to a head. In astrology, we have a system called the Sabian symbols, which is an archetypal interpretation system for the 360 degrees of the zodiac. I mentioned that degree of 22 degrees of Capricorn. In the Sabian symbol systems, that potent degree of 22 degrees Capricorn means, and I quote, by accepting defeat gracefully, a general reveals nobility of character. The keynote for this is that the realization that one may grow through defeat as well as, and perhaps even more than through success. This presents us with the possibility of turning apparent external defeat into an inner spiritual achievement. We have seen how totally vanquished nations of Germany and Japan during World War II, the aftermath, leaped forward and achieved great economic success. Much depends on the quality of the will and the inner integrity of the person. So this speaks to the situation both nationally in the U.S. as well as personally. If we're experiencing some form of defeat or letdown in our life, to know that this is related to looking inward and perhaps trying to achieve spiritually or psychologically. So this is very relevant to these times, the fact that Pluto and Jupiter are connecting at that 22-degree Capricorn, and what it means in this system, this archetypal symbolic system. Moving on with the planetary action, Mars. Mars has been traveling retrograde in Aries, which is its own sign, since September 9th and goes direct on November 13th. Mars retrograde for the past 2 months has actually toned things down, as it was not in its full force, or what we call it was debilitated being retrograde. But now that it will be traveling forward in its own sign, Mars's influence is amplified, and Mars may feed the fires of discontent and unrest during November. On a collective level, Mars may stir up some volatility, but on a personal level, Mars moving forward in its own sign will give us power and incentive to make things happen. New plans to implement. Any issues with our health and energy levels can be addressed, and we can reboot our vitality and life force now that Mars is going direct in Aries. Aries is a fire sign, so start lighting some fires. The Scorpio New Moon occurs on November 15th, with the Sun and Moon aligned in the sign Scorpio to offer new beginnings to all things scorpionic, such as shared resources, including money, sex, and power. This Scorpio energy continues through November 21st, when the Sun enters Sagittarius. Scorpio rules death and rebirth, release, and transformation. So this is the time to let go of the old patterns and transmute shadow into light. Scorpio transmutation of the ego or shadow self, so the higher self emerges, can be a profound and gracious healing process. This can sometimes result in disease or illness, but there is healing on the other end. Scorpio is considered the sign of death and rebirth, and many people may choose to leave their bodies at this time.
Folks, as the days get shorter and the nights get a little cooler, don't you just feel like sitting by the fire pit with a nice glass of wine to unwind? Let me tell you about Scout & Cellar Clean Crafted Wine. Scout & Cellar is organic, clean crafted, and always free of synthetic pesticides, chemical additives, and sweeteners. The best thing is, they have a whole range, from sparkling, white, rosé to red. Try this delicious pure wine straight from the grape to your glass. Order yours at Scout, SCOUT, and Cellar, CELLAR.com/Jill Jardine.
The Sun transits through Scorpio into November 21st, and more secrets will be revealed, lies are exposed, and coronavirus resurges. The stock market will fluctuate wildly. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the shadow planet governing what is hidden and the subconscious. The dark underbelly can be revealed. Scorpio's domain is deep and includes the hidden psyche, secrets, shared resources, and finances, sex, death, and rebirth. Dredging up the shadowy realms of Scorpio may be too bitter for some. Financial markets and economics will certainly take a hit as Sun and Mercury transit Scorpio, which rules both gain and loss. So some may gain and some may lose. The Sun transits into Sagittarius on November 21st through December 21st. Venus in Scorpio will oppose Uranus in Taurus on November 27th, which creates some economic waves and quakes in the money markets. The Taurus-Scorpio axis in astrology rules our value systems, resources, finances, security, gain, and loss. People may feel insecure at this time. Money markets may fluctuate, and it's time to find security within. These late November transits are precursors to major astrological shifts affecting the economy coming at the end of November, with a powerful full moon lunar eclipse on November 30th, a new moon solar eclipse on December 14th, and Saturn and Jupiter transiting out of Capricorn into Aquarius right after this mid-December solar eclipse. New beginnings are on the horizon. The veils of ignorance and illusion are lifted when Neptune goes direct on November 28th. Being in denial or delusion won't work anymore, as harsh realities are revealed. Secrets are spilled and much will be exposed. The Neptunian haze is dissipating, and the truth will set you free. The solution of foundations continues under the Capricornian cluster of Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn throughout November, culminating in that full moon lunar eclipse on November 30th. The full moon lunar eclipse will occur on the 30th of November with the sun transiting Sagittarius and the moon in Gemini. It is the follow-up full moon eclipse to the full moon eclipse on June 5th, 2020, when the sun was in Gemini and the moon was in Sagittarius. Both these eclipses triggered the natal chart of President Donald Trump, who was born with this same eclipse signature in his natal chart with the full moon lunar eclipse. In his case, it's the sun in Gemini and the moon in Sagittarius. We had that same eclipse back on June 5th. The nodes of the moon in astrology are always involved in eclipses, and they indicate the past and the future, and are crossroad times both personally and collectively. The north node of the moon is the head of the demon called Rahu in Vedic astrology. At eclipses, the head of the demon devours the sun or moon. At this eclipse, it will be devouring or obscuring the moon. The moon rules the emotions, emotional stability, nurturing, security, sense of well-being. So these qualities may feel compromised around this full moon lunar eclipse on November 30th. Mercury and Venus are in Scorpio during this full moon, allowing us to detox negative feelings or emotions and thoughts. This is a good use of the lunar eclipse energy. So this November, put on your kavacha, which is a Sanskrit word for spiritual armor, to weather November's twists and turns and emerge unscathed by the collective crazy bombshells and rise above the mosh pit of lower vibrational energies. So November will prove to be a very interesting, if not historical, month. But don't shoot the messenger here, Mercury, especially while it's retrograde, while I am taping this podcast. November will be a good month to do inner work. That is the Scorpio keynote, to go on in and purge yourself of what feel like bad habits. It's a great time to release and let go of anything that no longer serves. Go and give some of those clothes to a shelter or to the Goodwill, somewhere where people will appreciate them. That's also the Scorpio keynote, passing on resources that may help others. It is a good month for self-care of all types, emotional, physical, psychological. Try to curb any addictive tendencies. Scorpio is a sign that can feed into addictive tendencies, but can also give you very good willpower and self-control if you apply it that way. And now for the last segment of this episode, I'm going to share with you some sound healing. First of all, I will play the Native American rattle that will clear and dispense any negativity, worries, anxiety. This is a ceremonial rattle that I use to clear energy, so you can receive that healing from the rattle. And I will follow that with the crystal bowl to activate the heart chakra, which will raise your vibration and fill you with healing and light. So get ready. Thanks for tuning in to this episode on the astrology of November 2020 and finishing with the rattle and high vibration of the heart crystal bowl. This is Cosmic Sea with Jill Jardine, sending you healing crystal vibrations through the quantum field.